Originally, I wanted this video to take the shape of 3 mini-reviews of 3 different Sunsoft games released in the 1990s. But as time went on, I found that I kinda just wanted to talk about Gimmick. So these two will have to wait. Gimmick is one of those obscure, long-forgotten platformers that every person who's deeply interested in retro games has at least heard of. Looking at what Gimmick is kind of reveals to us why it's so obscure. It was released very late into the NES's lifespan. In 1992, the Super Famicom was already nearing 2 years old when Gimmick hit the Famicom. But Gimmick was made to rival games from the 16-bit generation. The animation and overall polish in many areas of this game almost seemed too good for the NES, and the music is one of the best on the entire console. Now, I'm not going to do the thing where I present you with a minute of audio with no added commentary, but you'll hear the music from this game throughout this video. If you have even the slightest interest in video game music, give this game a listen. Now, with all that said, I have a love-hate relationship with Gimmick. As I mentioned, I'd heard of it many times as a kid, and I'd been well acquainted with its Game Boy brother, Trip World, but I was never able to get invested into Gimmick in the same way. Because, as impressive as it is, I don't think it's all that fun. Let's start with the main character, Yume Taro. Yume Taro kind of feels slippery right from the get-go, and that's because you don't stop on slopes, no matter what you do. He also takes a bit to get up to full speed when jumping from a standstill, which really sucks if you're trying to jump from one-block platforms in this game. All of this makes the game feel like a more slippery version of Sonic the Hedgehog without the insane speed. Well, there is a way to get some decent speed in this game. This brings me to the next part of how Yume Taro controls, his attack. This has got to be one of the weirdest attacks I've ever seen. You have this star that you can throw at enemies, but you need to prime it first. This takes a second, and the time it takes to prime it can really suck if you're being swarmed by multiple enemies at once. Then, once you've primed it, releasing the B button will make Yume Taro throw it down directly in front of him, and depending on how high you've jumped, as well as the terrain around you, the star bounces around. This thing can take a while to stop bouncing, and you can't spawn another one while it's already out. The secondary and more unique function for this star is that you're able to jump on top of it and go for a ride, and basically use it as a platform. And a lot of secrets and puzzles in this game are built around the mastery of using this star as an extra jump. The main problem is that it always goes at such weird angles, and it almost feels like a shot in the dark when you try to get it to go the way you want. Now, I'll be the first to acknowledge that I don't have the biggest brain for stuff like this, but even if you do master this thing, I'd still call it unwieldy. Here's another thing about this game, the puzzles, and I guess the levels in general, feel like they have a case of the designers played this game to death, got too good at it, and started adding stuff that was challenging to them. Like, take this secret in level 2. How the fuck would anyone ever guess, yeah, I not only need to push this cannon down here, but also ride the cannonball towards this secret area. Oh yeah, and if you don't find all these secret items, you can't access the good ending. The whole game in general feels like you need to know what's coming before you can reasonably react to it. It's at this point where I want to make something clear. Some of my favorite games of all time very much feel like they're enjoyed best when you beat it once with a guide or a walkthrough, then you go back to replay it with the knowledge you've already gained. Like Link to the Past or Super Metroid, they definitely fall into this category, and Super Metroid is clearly the best SNES game ever made. And while Gimmick is probably better on a repeat playthrough, once you know everything, I still don't know if I consider it to be fun in my eyes. It's a lot like Sonic in the sense that a lot of detractors would consider the games to be bad, since they're best enjoyed after knowing everything about the levels to be able to blaze right through them. But for some reason I still like Sonic better than this. Maybe Sonic just feels more natural or, I guess, standard than Gimmick. The thing is, I want to like this game. There's so much detail and care put into it. The graphics and sound are both amazing, especially the latter, and there's some random hidden shit that I'm sad has gone unnoticed to most of the world's population. Like, look at this. There are literally 2 of these enemies in the entire game, but they programmed it so that when you flip them over, their still kicking feet would push you back. Or that these bug things will go back into this hole instead of disappearing off screen. Please watch this annotated playthrough of Gimmick for more cool insight about this game. Or play it yourself, you'll probably like it more than me. Normally I'd tell you how to get this game legally, but just fucking pirate it, dude. This game was only ever re-released once on the PS1 in Japan, but who cares? Sunsoft sure as shit isn't making any money off Gimmick in the current year, and Gimmick wasn't even released in most of the world anyway. If anything, just listen to its music, because that shit is the one thing everyone can agree is objectively amazing about this game. There's this documentary series on YouTube by Red Bull, all about chiptune music, where they talk about Gimmick and interview the main composer for one of the episodes, so also watch that if you want to get a good impression of this game. That's really all I have to say about this game. As I said, this was originally going to be a longer kind of video, but, you know, splitting it up into 3 parts probably makes it less cluttered and more manageable to watch. That's all for now. Goodbye.